When you think about the mobile industry, there's really a few industries around the world where the innovation has moved at the pace that we've seen over the last 20 years. Data rates are now being measured in hundreds of megabits per second, and soon actually will be in gigabits per second. Qualcomm actually announced earlier this year an LTE modem that will support 1 gigabit per second downlink speeds, which will come into the market early next year. So just tremendous advancements in broadband connectivity, as well as a lot of innovation over the last few years to bring down the cost of delivering data to the user. You know, many of us around the world are increasing the amount of data we use every year by 10 times. So the amount of data that's being consumed around the world on wireless networks is exploding, and that's a big challenge. So we're working very hard to try to address those problems as an industry. And then you think about your mobile device that you carry with you today. It's really basically a mobile computer. The computing power in that device is more than was on a desktop PC just a few years ago. And that's got to be delivered at low power so that your phone can make it through the day without recharging the battery. But delivering game quality video experiences and a lot of other multimedia content. When you think about the scale of this platform, there's about 7.4 billion mobile connections in the world as of the first quarter of this year. And that's going to continue to grow. And innovation really has been at the core of driving the transformation of the mobile industry worldwide, but certainly here in China. You think about the impressive growth we've seen just in the last couple of years. The LTE networks were launched here only a couple of years in China, and there's now approximately 500 million subscribers on the LTE networks. That comes as a result of innovation. Companies here in China are working hard to develop new products, new services, new business models. So it's not surprising that if you look today, 6 out of the top global 3G and 4G handset suppliers are Chinese companies. If you look back just to 2008, there was only 1 in the top 10. And I think if we're standing here next year, there'll probably be more than 6 in the top 10. So tremendous amount of innovation also driving this industry here in China as well. And you think about just the growth and the advances in the consumer experience, but also mobile is driving a huge benefit to the economy as a whole. So in China, mobile technology accounts for about 3.7% of China's GDP, and that's projected to grow to 4.8% of the GDP by 2020. And another important aspect is increases in productivity. So if you have a situation where small and medium-sized enterprises adopt mobile technology, it actually has the ability to add another $90 billion in GDP and more than 2.5 million jobs to the economy. So the mobile industry, the mobile technology really is adding a lot of value across a broad spectrum here in China and around the world. So there's really several factors, obviously, that are important to driving innovation. But we believe collaboration and sharing is one of the key factors. If you think about Qualcomm, when we started investing in technology very early. We tend to invest in things that are kind of very complex, early stage problems. But once we solve those problems, we don't keep the technology to ourselves. Our business model is to share that technology through licensing and enabling companies to get into the market quickly with our semiconductor and our software solutions. So that has created a tremendous amount of competition across the industry, and then allows our partners to innovate on top of that core technology and do things that they can do much better than us. And that sharing model, I think, is a key tenet of what innovation-driven societies will need going forward into the future. And so a lot of innovation is happening in the phone. We're all used to seeing that, but what we're going to see over the next 10 years is a tremendous transformation of a number of industries outside of the smartphone. Automotive, consumer electronics, healthcare, and many more, as technologies that have been developed for this huge mobile platform are adopted into these new industry segments. But the technology that many of us take for granted every day as we surf the web, download videos, and use all of the computing capability we have in our devices is extremely complex and is very, very expensive to develop. So if you look at it as an industry, since 2000, the mobile industry has invested more than $800 billion in driving the innovations that have gotten us to this point, to the broadband connectivity that we have today, and to the scale that the industry has grown to. But we're really at the beginning in many ways. As we think about the things we're going to need to do for the next generation of mobile technology, and just one piece of that is the cellular technology. So we're advancing things like 4G, LTE technology today, but now the industry is moving to 5G technology, because there's a number of things that need to get addressed with this explosion of data. Operators need to have the ability to use all of the available spectrum in the most efficient way possible. That requires investment in a whole new set of technologies. And they also need to be able to deliver this data at a reasonable cost. And so the innovation will need to continue. And you think about the types of innovation really that is at the core of these transformations. One of the things that we look at across the wireless networks are these fundamental problems that have to get solved. Early in the industry, it was capacity just to make voice calls. There was not enough capacity in the network, so improvements had to be made. Then you moved to data. We had to find ways to enable much broader data penetration. But this type of technology, and the way we think about it at Qualcomm, is we try to identify the key choke points in the industry, the most complex problems, and we invest in those early. But those investments are tremendously risky. You're developing technology typically 8 to 10 years before it becomes commercial, and you're investing billions of dollars to get there. So first, you have to prove it works. You've got to execute on your development. But then you need to, in the wireless industry, you need standards so that devices can talk to each other and many different suppliers that participate in the market. So then you need to get your technology actually adopted within the standard. And then there's multiple standards out there that compete against each other. And so then you have to have the standard that you've developed be the one that wins in the marketplace and then actually provide a value to consumers. So there's a tremendous amount of risk around these types of innovations. But those are the innovations actually that transform industries and change people's lives. So we need to be careful that we have the right incentives in place to encourage companies to invest in that type of risky R&D, not to wait on the sidelines until somebody else has done the work and then come in and benefit from it. So that's why we need an environment that creates basically a sustainable innovation environment. And policymakers have a big role to play in this. And I think we're seeing a lot of this transformation happen here in China now, which is very gratifying. But we need to have a regulatory environment that does not slow down innovation. We need a robust intellectual property system that allows companies, once they've made these risky investments, to get a fair return for those that use the technology. And then within standards bodies, where a lot of this technology is developed, we need to have balanced and fair policies so that companies that come in and innovate and bring technology to the market can get a fair return on that, while at the same time, companies that want to implement have the ability to use it. So the need to have fair and balanced policy within standards organizations, within regulation. You need to make sure that the regulation then from governments doesn't come in after the fact and undermine a lot of these incentives. Is really critical to driving innovation not only in the mobile industry, but I believe across the world. And here in China, as I said, we're seeing an active move for the government to put reforms and protections in place that create just that type of environment that fosters innovation and entrepreneurship. Stronger intellectual property frameworks, greater collaboration on advanced technology, research between universities and enterprises, more open and inclusive market opportunities. These are all very, very important initiatives that need to continue to foster the innovation. And you're seeing already these initiatives take hold and pay dividends here in China. Chinese companies are becoming among the most innovative companies, not only here in China, but worldwide. So you see them grow their businesses outside of China as well. And I think as we look at transformations in a lot of the other developing countries moving forward, this will be a good template for growth in those regions as well. And obviously, Premier Li, in his remarks when he unveiled the new 5-year plan, recognizes the importance of entrepreneurship and innovation in helping to transform the market here in China to be much more innovation and technology driven. And we definitely agree with that. So the last 10 years in the mobile industry has been really about connecting people to each other and people to the things around them. The next 10 years is going to be about continuing to do that, but also connecting billions of objects directly to the internet. That is going to create a number of different areas that need innovation, all the way from the data center through to the edge of the network. So again, there will be another investment cycle needed to take the technology platform we have today and scale that for all of these new opportunities. And we believe that mobile technology is really going to be the key to transforming a number of industries around the world. You look at automotive, the car is becoming increasingly connected. It's sort of the ultimate mobile platform. Once you get a car connected to the internet, now there's a lot of new services that can be offered. And then you can bring also a number of new safety initiatives. So you're going to see more communication between vehicles and vehicles to pedestrians, vehicles to the smart city infrastructure around it, to really increase safety and reduce congestion and pollution in big cities. Healthcare is another great example. Today, around the world, we have a major problem with healthcare, whether it's in developed regions where the cost is much too high, it's not going to be sustainable, or in developing regions where the access is not there. And mobile technology has the ability to transform on both ends of the spectrum. In developed regions, you can get people out of the hospital much earlier, which is a very high-cost environment, and monitor them remotely in the home. And in emerging markets, you have the ability now to get diagnosis and treatment much deeper into rural areas through wireless connectivity. You can have a group of specialists back in a large city communicating with a local doctor to provide treatment. So really a number of ways that these industries are going to be transformed. But the technologies and the solutions are going to have to be customized for each individual application. The modem you put in a windmill sitting in a desert that only communicates infrequently but has to stay on a single battery charge for 10 years is going to be quite different than the phone that we carry with us or the wearable device that we wear on our wrist. So a lot of work is going to continue to need to be done to drive these opportunities as well. But the basic underpinnings are there. And on the network side, a lot of discussion about 5G. We have a great basis with 4G, but when you think about trying to enable some of these new applications, we're going to have much higher reliability. If you want to be able to monitor a patient at home doing dialysis, for instance, you need a real-time connection that is highly reliable. Those are going to be part of the innovations that come in 5G and really help, basically those innovations will help drive this explosion of new connectivity at the edge of the network. So Qualcomm's actually been very active here in China for over 20 years, probably best known for the work that we do in the mobile space, in cellular in particular. We work very closely with wireless operators as they've rolled out their LTE networks. We work closely with our handset partners as they've developed their business here in China and look to expand worldwide. But we're also committed to helping drive an innovation and technology-driven economy here in China. And so we've been doing a number of initiatives here over the last couple of years, including helping in the semiconductor side drive higher capability for semiconductor manufacturing here in China. We also formed a joint venture recently with a company called Thundersoft to help develop these customized solutions for the Internet of Things and help drive the Internet Plus initiatives here in China. And just this week at the Big Data Summit down in Guizhou, we were talking about the joint venture we formed with the Guizhou government to develop server chips for data centers here in China. And beyond that, we're also trying to foster entrepreneurship with the investment funds we make in startup companies. So we hope that many other companies will follow our lead and continue to invest here in China and help drive what we hope will be a much more innovation and technology-driven economy going forward. So maybe I'll close by just noting that, again, mobile is having a tremendous economic benefit and impact as it accelerates its growth across the world. In 2015, the mobile ecosystem generated $4.2 billion of global GDP, or $3.1 trillion in value. Direct employment from the mobile industry was about 17 million jobs, and indirect employment was about 15 million jobs. And we expect by 2020 those numbers will be 3.7 trillion of value and direct employment of more than 20 million jobs. So this is the type of innovation that can drive growth, that can drive value, and change people's lives. So we're very excited about what lies ahead. We're looking forward to continuing to partner closely here in China as well as many other places in the world as we help drive the mobile industry forward and expand into a number of these other opportunities. So with that, I would like to wish the forum a great success, and thank you very much.